There's plenty of blame to go around for the Chicago Bears' slow start against the Detroit Lions in Week 18, but Caleb Williams deserves very little of it.
You are Locked On Bears, your daily Chicago Bears podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
This is Locked On Bears, and I'm your host, Lauren Cox. I'm here to bring you your daily, in-depth Chicago Bears news and analysis. Thanks for making the Locked On Bears podcast your first listen today. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And on the show today, I want to go back through the Bears' loss to the Detroit Lions and figure out, first of all, why did they start so slow on offense? What was going wrong that kept them from finishing drives with any kind of points? Turns out a lot of different things, but quarterback maybe the very bottom of that list on offense. Defensively, same kind of idea. Like, this defense had trouble all game slowing down the Lions' offense, and yet held them to just 13 points in the first half, a number of field goal drives there, 19 points in the game. Like, why were things so easy for the Lions to move the ball and then yet not getting nearly enough points for Detroit? How much was that the Bears defense making stops versus the Lions offense kind of getting in its own way? I came away feeling slightly better about the Bears defense than I thought I might, and we'll wrap up with maybe some of the unanswered questions we have coming out of this game, looking ahead now to the playoffs and the Green Bay Packers on Saturday, where you're just not exactly sure what you're going to get from this Bears team. But we start with the slow start from the offense, because we talked yesterday about how, defense, weird game, kind of bad, looked bad, but only holding 19 points is generally like a good enough defensive performance. But it was the offense that was the bigger concern for how it disappeared against the Detroit Lions. And so I wanted to go through and get a sense of like, okay, what's actually going wrong that leads to this slow start? And I think it was, well, unfortunately, a combination of a bunch of little things that isn't just like, oh, fix this one problem and boom, you've got instant Chicago Bears offense. But instead, it's a lot of like, well, on this play, it was one guy, and then it was a different guy, and then it was a different guy, and it was like 5 different guys in 5 different situations. That good news is like, you don't have one big problem to solve, and that you can expect guys to play better. But bad news is you can't just fix one thing, and you need a lot of stuff to get better all at the same time. You take like the first drive of the game for the Bears offense is a good example of this, right? It's not a 3-and-out or anything like that. It wasn't a quick failure by any means. They get the running game going a little bit. DeAndre Swift has, 4 carries on that first drive of the game for the Bears. They get to 1st and 10 near midfield. They put in Kyle Monangai because Swift just had held the ball 4 times. First handoff to Kyle Monangai. He's trying to go off the right side, but both the tight ends go to the defensive end, and neither one of them blocks the linebacker, who just comes in referee and makes a tackle for a 2-yard gain. And it's hard to know whether Komet or Loveland was supposed to peel off on that, or if Monangai was supposed to block or was supposed to cut back more on that run. But like either way, a failure in run blocking and communication up there. So, then you get 2nd and 8, and it's another handoff to Monangai at the middle. And this time, Joe Tooney, of all people, gets beat on his run block, and it gets pushed back in the backfield and then kind of swallows up wherever Monangai was trying to go, and it's a tackle for a loss. Then you get 3rd and 9, and the Bears try and set up a swing pass screen to Kyle Monangai out of the backfield. Lions blitz and seek it out the whole way. They're all over it, so Caleb Williams has to throw it in the dirt, and all of a sudden, 3 plays that went nowhere, and you're punting to wrap up what otherwise was the beginnings of otherwise solid drive. But it's like missed block from a tight end here, bad block from your best offensive lineman there, and then good defense on 3rd down, and all of a sudden it's like not just one thing that's holding your offense back, but it's a lot of different guys. And you didn't see a lot of repeat offenders in that regard. A couple here and there, but like the second drive, right? That's the only drive the Bears have in the first quarter, but you get into the second quarter when the Bears get the ball again. This one's a 3-and-out because you get to 3rd and 3, and Aiden Hutchinson, bends the edge against Darnell Wright. Again, like your best offensive tackle, your most solid edge blocker there. But sometimes even good players get beat. And against good players like Aiden Hutchinson, that's going to happen. And Hutchinson turns the corner and sacks your quarterback. And it's like, all right, well, like you're not going to like that play was Darnell Wright's fault, but like that's just sort of like, all right, you live with that because Darnell Wright doesn't do that very often. It just happens to happen on that drive. So then you get the ball back one more time before halftime, and that's the drive that ends on 4th and 2 when Caleb fires a slant to Colston Loveland, and the ball gets ripped out, and they initially ruled it a fumble, and then correctly called it an incomplete pass. Although in that situation it didn't really matter because it was a turnover on downs anyway. And it's like, well, Loveland had been such a reliable receiver for you, especially in recent games, and now he can't hold on to it through contact there, and all of a sudden, you're not like looking at any of these individual issues and saying, there's a real problem the Bears have to solve there. Like, sorry, Loveland can't hold on to a pass. Darnell Wright gets beat for a sack. Like, that stuff happens every once in a while, and it was just a case of like any little thing that seemed like it could go wrong was going wrong for the Bears in that first half. If anything, like, Loveland was the repeat offender there, because in the third quarter, the first drive of the third quarter, you have another one of those plays where they throw it to Loveland on a slant route, and it's tight coverage, and he can't hold on to it through the contact of the defender. And you're like, well, you're kind of expecting Loveland to be able to make those tough contested catches, and he really let go of two of those in this game that you would like to see him catch. But we can understand that he's a rookie and not going to make every play every time, and also be a little bit disappointed because he was making every play every time for the last couple of games there. And this one, he just couldn't make those. He couldn't hold on to those plays that ended up ending drives that otherwise had the beginnings of some kind of something going there. Like you can really kind of point to abrupt ends from mistakes there from a variety of different Bears players. Because from there, you get the next drive ends in the DJ Moore interception in the end zone, where Caleb's taking a shot downfield and throwing a 50-50 ball up there. Then the Bears score touchdowns on the next two drives. Like, then the offense is rolling, right? But like all throughout the slow offensive start, it's blocker here, it's good defense there, it's a sack here, it's not a dropped pass, but a pass not held on to there. And it's like, well, yeah, that all adds up to a slow offensive start, but where do you pick up the pieces then? Like, you just sort of have to assume that, Darnell Wright's not going to give up key third down sacks moving forward. Colston Loveland's probably going to be able to hold on to tough catches the way he has all season moving forward. Like, Joe Thuney's not going to miss run blocks. The tight ends are going to be able to pick up linebackers properly. Like, just kind of have to hope and expect that guys are going to just do their jobs better moving forward. But it's hard to kind of count on that and feel like there's anything tangible you can do to fix that. But the theme that stuck out for me throughout that was that very little of it was Caleb Williams' fault. Like, when you look at the first half, I think he had one bad throw. And I think there were two bad throws in the first half, if I remember correctly. No, it was one bad throw in the first half, and there was a ball he tried to throw. I don't know if you call it a slant or a post route, where the linebacker got underneath it and like tipped it up and got hands on it, and probably should have been intercepted. I don't remember which drive that was on, but it was like an interceptable type of pass. Maybe you call it just a pass breakup, but still, Caleb put the ball slightly into harm's way on that throw. Every other incompletion in the first half was a throwaway, a batted pass, or a pass breakup by a defender, the Colston Loveland drop pass, right? Where Caleb puts on the money and the defender separates the receiver from the ball. But like you can't go through that first half and find any other like inaccurate or missed throws from Caleb Williams besides the one that was tipped up by the linebacker that I mentioned there. That's one bad throw in the entire first half from Caleb Williams. Albeit it's only 3 drives, so it's not like it's a huge sample size. But the point being, it wasn't Caleb making bad throws. He was 6 of 10 in that first half, and one of those 10 was actually a bad throw. Like that's otherwise 9 out of 10 throws were either good throws or a batted pass, a throwaway, a pass breakup by the defense that weren't his fault as being an inaccurate quarterback in there. You even start the third quarter, you get another Colston Loveland contested catch that he can't hold on to. You get a drop by, I think, Luther Burden starts that. Like, all game, if I'm looking at all of Caleb Williams' incomplete passes, there was the near interception we just talked about. There was a play where he's rolling to his right and he's trying to throw it to DeAndre Swift working towards the sideline, and it's just like it's too far behind Swift, and he reaches back like with one hand to try and catch it but can't really hold on to it. Like, I'll count that as a Caleb Williams miss. I'll even count the DJ Moore interception as a overthrown pass from Caleb Williams, even though DJ Moore needed to do more on that play. Sure, not Caleb Williams' best ball. And then there was one other overthrow to Colston Loveland on the right sideline when he got flushed out. But otherwise, every incompletion was throwaways, drops, receivers not holding onto the ball, batted passes. Like, I count 4 inaccurate throws, really, from Caleb Williams in this game. Out of his full pass attempts in the game were 33. Like, he generally was very accurate and did smart things with the football generally outside of a small handful of plays. Like, I find myself feeling like, for the most part, really not his fault, but a lot of everybody else around him failing him a bit more against Lions. Sure, Caleb probably could have done more positive on some plays, but like in terms of him being the cause of the negatives, absolutely not an issue there. Now, on the Bears' defensive side, I went into this rewatch thinking worse of the defense than I came away with. But I think having gone back through it, I got to give this defense a little bit more credit for making some key stops that are kind of easy to forget when you think back over the game and how well Jared Goff moved the ball. So we'll take a look at what slowed down this Lions offense when it was the Bears and when it was Detroit making the mistakes themselves. Next on Locked On Bears. This episode of Locked On Bears is brought to you by Zocdoc. Finding a doctor you actually like can feel like discovering a diamond in the rough, because you want someone who's in network, who's nearby, who has availability, but you also want a doctor who really listens and makes you feel comfortable and explains things clearly, helping you walk out feeling confident about your next steps. But your diamond in the rough doctor exists, and finding them is easy with Zocdoc. Zocdoc is a free app and website that helps you find and book high-quality in-network doctors so you can choose someone you truly connect with. You can search for specialty or symptoms to quickly find the right fit, filter between in-person or video visits, and check verified patient reviews to get a real sense of the doctor's vibe and communication style. So stop putting off those doctor's appointments. Go to ZocDoc.com/LockedOnNFL to find and instantly book a doctor you love today. That's ZocDoc.com/LockedOnNFL. ZocDoc.com/LockedOnNFL. Thanks to Zocdoc for sponsoring this message. The Locked On Bears podcast is also brought to you by Ultimate QB Football Legend. If you've ever wished to become a pro quarterback and, get drafted first overall by the Bears, say like a Caleb Williams, well, now you can, because there's a mobile game just for you called Ultimate QB Football Legend. In this game, you step into the cleats of a number one draft pick quarterback, and it's your job to lead your team to greatness and to help turn a failing franchise into a dynasty. It's the number one quarterback career game mode on the mobile app stores, and it introduces the most realistic environment with full career control. You're signing contracts, you're training and upgrading yourself, you're building chemistry and evolving your teammates, giving input to your general manager on roster moves, playing the actual games in 2D, and rising through the ranks to become a pro football legend. You deal with the ups and downs of a QB career, and Ultimate QB is totally free to play. It has no ads, and it works 100% offline. It's perfect for you want to sneak in a quick game or two on the go. So just head over to ultimate-qb.com. That's ultimate-qb.com, or search for Ultimate QB in your app store. And we've got something special just for you guys. Use our promo code LOCKEDON, all caps, in the game's store to get a free boost at the start of your career. Ultimate QB Football Legend. QB1, it's your legacy. This Bears defense certainly got gashed between the 20s and made life too easy for Jared Goff to get the ball into at least field goal range the majority of the time. But the way they held up at or near the red zone, I came away a lot more impressed with on the rewatch than the first time through. And to be fair, some of that has been a lingering, ongoing issue with Detroit, where they have just been bad in the red zone all season, and that plays into the Bears being able to make some stops there. But it wasn't all just Lions' futility in the red zone. Like, some of it legitimately was Bears players making plays to force a stop and hold the Lions to field goals, or in some cases turnovers in this game. And I think they deserve a little bit more credit than we were all giving them coming out of that game, where we were obviously frustrated with how bad the defense looked and has continued to look now entering the playoffs. Like, I think back to the first drive, and I barely remember the play until I went and watched it again, of like the Lions marched down the field, right? Pretty seamlessly, a little bit of running game here, some easy passes to Tesla and to Jameson Williams, and they're getting a bunch of chunk yards after the catch, and they're marching all the way down inside the red zone. But then 3rd and 5, Jared Goff tries to throw that slant to Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Jaquan Brisker comes down and is all over it and breaks up the pass, separates the receiver from the ball. And in like a key third down stop, individual player on Bears defense made a play. Like despite the slant being a man coverage beating type of play, I think Brisker kind of saw it coming and went and attacked it and had good instincts and a good response and a good pass breakup to not let Amon-Ra St. Brown make that catch and make a play for the Lions offense. You hold them to a field goal on that first drive. And it's like, all right, like little rough to start there, but defense, I'm so sick of the phrase bend but don't break, but like that's what they did on that drive and what they did a lot in this game. Like the second drive was a 16-play, 66-yard drive that took more than 7 minutes of time off of the clock. And from the end of the first quarter through the start of the second quarter. And again, like Lions methodically marching down the field, right? Easy throw to St. Brown. They got a sack, but he just kept hitting these man coverage beaters against this Bears defense. Lions even give themselves a holding penalty and overcome that with a couple of big passes there. But they get down the red zone, and all of a sudden, the Bears start making plays. Like it's 1st and 10 at the 13 or wherever they are, for 12, and here comes TJ Edwards, my Wisconsin linebackers, I guess. TJ Edwards on a blitz, jumps up, bats a pass. All right, like there's a nice stop on first down for the Bears defense, but you got 2 more to go. Like second down, Lions decide to roll Jared Goff to the left, and the Bears, lo and behold, like actually cover it pretty well, and Austin Booker chased him down, and he just has to throw it away out of the sideline, like nowhere to go with the ball. And then 3rd and 10 from the 12, Bears actually get a little pressure on the quarterback. They disrupt the timing. They cover it pretty well, and Goff has to just throw it away out of the back of the end zone. Like somehow, some way, on a drive when you're 13 plays into the drive, the defense is gashed and gassed. They find a way to make 3 straight stops, and I'm willing to put like some amount of that on the Lions. Like I think the rollout that they ran was not a great red zone concept because you're trying to get like 3 levels of depth, and when you're 12 yards from the end zone, there's not 3 levels of depth. So like receivers end up being so close together that there's not a lot of separation because cornerbacks are all kind of in the same area. So like I'm willing to say like a little bit of that can be not the best play calling by the Lions in the red zone, but like Bears found a way to make some stops. Like then I think the Lions were like, wait a minute, okay, they're just running man coverage like 70% of the time in the first half. So they just went to man coverage beaters up and down the field on that last drive before the half. And then that's when Jahmyr Gibbs torches TJ Edwards on that, like they call it a Texas route, where like from the backfield, he'll go towards the sideline and then turn a 90 degrees and bend it back to the inside. It's sort of an out and then back in kind of thing. And Edwards didn't stand a chance against Gibbs on the backfield. And there's a touchdown, right? And that's how you get 13 points at halftime. Like the Bears didn't keep them from scoring on any of the 3 first half drives, but at least there were stops that held them to field goals instead of touchdowns. Like if that's 3 touchdowns and it's 21-0 at halftime, you're screwed. Or even if it's 1 more touchdown and it's 17-0 at halftime, the third quarter feels a lot differently. But like in the third quarter, Javon Dexter gets a 3rd down sack on a stunt with Austin Booker off that left side, and you get a batted pass from Grady Jarrett later on that drive, and then there's one play where Jared Goff throws it to Jamison Williams in the flat, and it would have been a touchdown, and he just missed him. Like he rushed the throw and he missed him. Like that drive, I'm willing to kind of say Lions kind of screwed themselves there. They ran a David Montgomery Wildcat play in the red zone that didn't go anywhere either, and then Goff just misses what would have been a touchdown. Jamison Williams in the backfield, they just had him run a straight flare route to the flat, and Jalen Johnson was trying to run with him and couldn't, but Goff threw it too far in front of him, just missed an open receiver for what probably should have been a touchdown. Like, so there were definitely moments where in the red zone, it was self-inflicted wounds from the Lions, or like later in that, I think it was 3rd or 4th quarter, you remember it was 3rd and 1, and the Lions called a halfback pass for David Montgomery, and Jaquan Brisker, of all people, covered Jared Goff, so Montgomery had nowhere to go and ends up taking, I think, what goes down as a sack because it was a passing play, even though Montgomery's a running back, but still, like, so there is some weird, like, Lions getting too cute or trying to do too much or making life more difficult on themselves than it can, and the Bears take advantage of it. But, like, Bears absolutely, like, made a great play on the ball to tip the ball up in the air and make an interception on that next drive in the 4th quarter, right? Like, maybe Goff is forcing a throw that he shouldn't be forcing into there, but, like, it's a good tip by Brisker. It's a great catch by Kevin Byard. Like, that opportunistic Bears defense, you give them that inch and they'll take a mile, and they absolutely did there, and they deserve credit for that, especially when you go back to this game, and it was the theme all along. Bears kept playing man coverage over and over again, and we were wondering why. And so I was curious to go back and see like just how much man coverage it was. When I say the number, it doesn't sound as bad as it was. Over the course of the game, the Bears ran man coverage 55% of Jared Goff's passing plays. That doesn't seem all that high. I mean, it doesn't seem like crazy high. It is more than we've seen the Bears run in a long time this season. I don't think I didn't go back and look at every single week, but it might be a season high in man coverage, but don't quote me on that. It felt like a season high in the amount of man coverage they ran in this game. But it was especially high in the first half. First quarter, they ran man coverage like 70% of the time. Second quarter, it was like 60% of the time. And then like third quarter, it was 50% of the time. And fourth quarter was about 50% of the time. So it ended up like evening out to about 55%. But they ran more zone than I remembered watching live. And it still was far too much man coverage. And every time the Bears blitzed, it was man coverage except for one play in the entire game. I want to say it was about 13 or 15 blitzes in this game, and all but one of them were man coverage. Sometimes it was cover one, sometimes it was cover zero, but like man coverage, blitz, Goff just looks and finds he's open, and they've got burned by that by Brock Purdy. They got burned by that by Jordan Love. They got burned by it by Malik Willis. Like, why Dennis Allen refuses to zone blitz is beyond me. I mean, maybe he just doesn't trust these guys to cover in zone blitz, but they're not covered in man blitz, so why not try it more? The one zone blitz they tried in this game was cover 3 blitz, and it came on a quick wide receiver screen. I want to say to Jameson Williams, but it might have been Khalif Raymond that, it's a screen. It's a pass was out in less than 2 seconds. Like, you didn't get to see how well they could actually cover on the play because it was a quick screen pass. So like, we just haven't really seen them zone blitz much at all to make up for it. But like, worth noting in this game, the interception tipped up comes on zone coverage. Wow, crazy how they covered better on plays. They had some more success on some of the plays that they were in zone coverage. Certainly, Goff sliced up their zone coverage as well when he has plenty of time to throw in the pocket. It would not have solved all their problems if they had played zero man coverage, but just, I don't know, didn't feel like defensive players being put in the best position to be successful. And I'm still left unanswered and unsatisfied as to why that was the approach this time against the Lions. And there's a few other like lingering questions or unanswered questions or just lingering things that are left up in the air in the lead up to the Packers game on Saturday that we'll break down next on Locked On Bears. This episode of Locked On Bears is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Fridays already feel different during basketball season, and FanDuel is making them even better because every Friday night before the games tip off, FanDuel is giving fans a new way to kick off the weekend with NBA Happy Hour. NBA Happy Hour is your official pregame, a limited window where special offers drop right inside the FanDuel app before the action starts. So on Fridays, from 5 to 6:30 Central Time, it's now appointment viewing with NBA Happy Hour. You open the FanDuel during Happy Hour. They open the FanDuel app during Happy Hour, and you're always going to find something new. Boosts, bonuses, and surprises. It's easy to check the weekly special before tip-off and make a move before the window closes. The timing is really perfect. It's right before the games and right before the weekend starts, and it just adds a little extra energy to Friday night basketball without overthinking it. So before tip-off, check the FanDuel app and see what's dropping during NBA Happy Hour every Friday from 5 to 6:30 p.m. Central Time. A little basketball, a little action, and a whole lot of Friday energy. That's NBA Happy Hour, only on FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NBA. The Bears have a lot to clean up. From the loss to the Detroit Lions, I think they're fully capable of cleaning it up and playing a much better game against the Green Bay Packers on Saturday. But I think we're still left with some lingering questions and just sort of unanswered parts of this team right now, starting with why they were running so much man coverage against the Lions and why they seem to only be willing to blitz out of man coverage. I haven't gotten a good explanation for that. And I will again say, like, I'm not here to say, like, I know better than Dennis Allen, and they would be more successful if they did it differently. But it just feels like when you keep doing the same thing over and over again and it's not working, you're better off trying different things. Even if those don't work, at least you're trying different things to see if those other things might work, instead of doing what feels stubborn by sticking with the same thing and not seeing it really get much better in terms of the coverage on the back end. But one of those other lingering questions is like, why in a game like this, you're playing a bunch of man coverage, you're seeing Jalen Johnson unable to run with Jamison Williams over the middle of the field. You're seeing C.J. Gardner-Johnson getting smoked by Amon-Ra St. Brown out of the slot. You're seeing Nahshon Wright overrunning Khalif Raymond and Jamison Williams on the outside. And Tyreek Stevenson goes as a healthy scratch, plays 0 snaps in this game. Ben Johnson was asked about this. He didn't have a lot to say, so I'm not going to play the full clip, but basically just said they liked what Nahshon Wright and Jalen Johnson were doing, so they didn't want to take him out of the game. And I don't know, maybe when you go back and watch the tape, they'll feel differently, but maybe watching it live, they didn't see it as much of a problem. But like Jalen Johnson targeted 7 times, gave up 6 catches for 81 yards in this game. Nahshon Wright gave up 4 catches for 68 yards in this game, gave up a bunch of yards after catch. It was just way too easy because you're asking these guys to run around the field in man coverage with receivers they just couldn't keep up with. Much like the blitzing conversation, I'm not here to say that Tyreek Stevenson would have solved the problem. It just is, again, a situation of the thing you're doing isn't working and you refuse to change the thing you're doing when you have an alternative that you could try. Even if you think the alternative won't be any better, it's worth trying to make sure. You don't know until you try for sure. And when you're not even trying, then it's hard to feel like you're really doing everything you can to try and win the game. The good news is that maybe another lingering question here is that Kyler Gordon might be back for this Packers game. Ben Johnson said that's the hope. I don't know if he went as far to say that's the plan, but like that's sort of like what they've been working towards, is that like hoping to have him back at practice this week and then maybe potentially playing. Like it's a lingering question here with C.J. Gardner-Johnson injured in this game. Like who is going to play in the slot? Obviously, preferred choice is Kyler Gordon. Second choice is C.J. Gardner-Johnson. Anything beyond that, I'm really worried against the Green Bay Packers, because if it's Nick McLeod who missed this last game, like he's been horrendous every time he touches the field. The alternative plan there was, for some reason, it was Jalen Jones in this game, came in and played the couple of snaps after C.J. Gardner-Johnson got hurt, played 2 snaps in the slot. I don't know why it wasn't Josh Blackwell, who's been a slot cornerback, whereas Jalen Jones has been an outside guy, but unanswered question there. Like I feel like my personal third choice would be Josh Blackwell. I will again, like Dennis Allen knows these players and coaching football far better than I ever will. So like I'm never going to try and say that I know better than these guys, but like don't have a good explanation for you there. Like just just some of those lingering things on defense are like why they're doing some of the things the way they are, and then who's going to be available on Saturday night against the Green Bay Packers. Offense, similar types of questions in different spots. If you may have noticed in this game against the Lions, Ja'Day Walker became the Bears' number 3 wide receiver. Ja'Day Walker was on the field for, let me find the exact number here, 20 snaps in that game, the third most of any wide receiver, and Olamide Zaccheaus was on the field for 6 snaps in that game. And like you compare that to the 49ers game, well, Zaccheaus, I think, missed the 49ers game, so I guess it's not a fair comparison, but like Ja'Day Walker played the second most snaps against the 49ers in that game. So like has Ja'Day Walker like has he surpassed Olamide Zaccheaus on the depth chart, or is this a reflection of like Zaccheaus was out with illness, was still dealing with the illness this week? He was a full participant at practice, so presumably he should be fine, but maybe he's not 100%, and maybe he's still kind of gassed out there and still kind of getting back into full game shape. But I'm just curious if that's temporary, if that's permanent, because I think Ja'Day Walker has absolutely earned it, and I would not like to see them go back to it, but I just wonder, in a playoff game, do they say, well, Walker's been good, but like he's a rookie, and Zaccheaus is a experienced veteran, and they just I wonder if they will feel like, hey, Zaccheaus has been around the block a few more times. This is his 7th year in the NFL, and I believe he was in the playoffs in 2023 with the Philadelphia Eagles for one game. They lost in the wild card round. Oh, and he was in the playoffs last year with the Washington Commanders. So like he has some decent playoff experience. And if they'll say, well, Walker's been better lately, but like now that Zaccheaus maybe is back healthier, so then do they put him back in that role? That's going to be fun to watch. And along the same categories, does Rome Odunze make it back for the Packers game or not? Like it's always kind of felt like that was the plan, right? Shut him down for the regular season with the hopes that extra time would get him as close to 100% as he can be for Green Bay. But we still got to see it as the week goes on with practice and injuries. And the last lingering thing I want to throw out here. Against the Lions, we saw a couple of those Colston Loveland, I don't want to call them dropped passes because they weren't pure drops, but he had a pure drop against the 49ers where he just let an easy one go through his hands. And then against the 49ers, he had a couple that you want him to be able to hold on to. So now it's back-to-back weeks where he hasn't finished catches that you'd like to see him catch. I'm curious, is this a temporary thing? Or is this the kind of thing where for a young player early in his career, does he start getting into his head about like, I got to hold on to it, and you start overthinking it, you get stuck in your head and like, not quite the yips, but yips adjacent, like in the category of like I'm just curious, like, does he come back strong and you don't see him drop another pass and he holds on to all the tough ones, or does this kind of linger a little bit as he has to kind of work through this issue, maybe even more mentally than just physically, because he feels like he's let his team down in back-to-back losses, and oh no, I can't let them down here in the playoffs. Like that's going to be another lingering thing I'd like to watch moving forward here, or at least try and find some answers to. We'll get some answers to at least against the Green Bay Packers on Saturday, but a lot to still preview in the upcoming matchup on Saturday. We're going to be here for you all week long, getting you ready for a home Chicago Bears playoff game. So that's why you got to make sure you hit the subscribe button on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts, because that's going to be the best way to keep up with all of our daily, in-depth Chicago Bears news and analysis. Thanks for making Locked On Bears your first listen today. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you so much to all of our everydayers that tune in 5 days a week. If you'd like to upgrade to ad-free listening of Locked On Bears with no ads on on any of your favorite podcast platforms, you can join the Locked On Bears Everydayers Club. If you go to lockedonbears.supercast.com for $5 a month or $50 a year, you can go ad-free listening and get access to a Locked On Everydayers Club Discord channel with a Locked On Bears group chat in it as well. Or you can keep listening the same way you always are. We're not going behind a paywall. We're always going to be free and available on all platforms. This is just a bonus opportunity to make it that much more enjoyable for you to bear down.